Hello, welcome to Furious Driving, and today I'm at the wheel of, well, an almost forgotten Vauxhall, certainly a very rare one. Yes, this is a Vauxhall Vectra B 2.5 litre GSi V6. They didn't make many, there aren't many left. Is it any good? Yeah, probably is actually, yeah. This car is currently for sale at Stone Cold Classics at Rootham in Kent. If you like the look of this, please follow the link in the description to their website and take a look at whatever they got in stock. And if you like reviews of interesting and different cars, then make sure you hit those like and subscribe buttons down below. And now on with the review.
Proud to be sponsored by Diamond Bright, the car care products that have been keeping the Furious fleet looking their best for a long time already. To find all you need to keep your car clean and protected, follow the link below to diamondbright.co.uk.
Hello, welcome to Furious Driving, and today, like it says in the thumbnail, we're looking at this. A 2.5 litre GSi Vectra B, a motorway munching, trade park trembling, McDonald's mashing beast of a late 90s super hatch, I guess, if that's a thing. The Vectra B had a hard act to follow. The original Vectra A ran from 1998 until 1995. It was known in the UK as the Vauxhall Cavalier Mark III, but everywhere else in the world, the Mark I Vectra. Now, that particular car was an absolute high point for Vauxhall and Opel. It was brilliantly made, it drove great, the interiors were good, everything about it was fantastic. Then along came the Vectra B, and it became the first car that Jeremy Clarkson on Top Gear slated so hard the manufacturer wouldn't give him any more cars. So, improving on that was going to be a hard act. However, later on in its illustrious career, Vauxhall/Opel did just that with this, the GSi. They changed a lot of things, and we're going to take a look around those right now. In the 90s, touring cars were massive. The BTCC, the WTCC, all those touring car series were just the biggest thing in racing, and so they had a Vectra-based touring car. It wasn't based on this one, it was based on the 2-litre Family 2 engine, because that's what fit into the criteria of those things. But this is very heavily touring car inspired in terms of its appearance. However, curiously, although Vauxhall's touring cars were put together by Derek Warwick's group, these things were put together by MSD, who did the Peugeots. Who knew? Anyway, there's a lot of good stuff going on. First of all, let's talk about the mirrors. We cannot talk about a Vectra B in any review and not mention these things, which on the standard car is possibly the most interesting aspect of the entire vehicle. It's a beautiful line that goes all the way from the grille, following the chrome line into the crease in the bonnet, swoops out, and then it's a double stack expansion of plastic into the mirror housing, and it's really very nice indeed. It actually lifts over the wing and over the door. It's a beautiful bit of design. With the standard Repmobiles on such an otherwise uninspiring car, that is a fantastic little bit of craftsmanship and design. Anyway, moving away from that, we have got our deep grille, the lower spoiler. This isn't dirt, it's just really dusty out here today for some reason. So we've got this lower air dam, this big lip, making it look far more aggressive. We've got fog lights down the front. We have got these gill-like air ducts which actually do direct air to the brakes to increase cooling and make them stop harder for longer when you're driving fast. We've got our special 17-inch alloys, which, don't forget, in the end of the 1990s, 17 inches was still the kind of aftermarket accessory rude boys are putting on their modified cars to make them look aggressive and oversized. Our times have changed. That's basically a Mini these days. We've got our bigger side skirts, and round the back, so everyone following you knows you're driving something special, as well as the discreet badging. We've got an indiscreet spoiler and the very indiscreet twin exhausts. This one is the four-door saloon. There was a hatchback and later on an estate, but they only made something like 391 estates in total. So I lift the bonnet, and like an exotic car of the age, it's on hydraulic struts, so you've not got to mess around with sticks and things, it just goes straight up and stays there. This is the 2.5 litre Ecotec V6. It has been breathed on extensively. It's got different camshaft, remapped ECU, so it makes 192 horsepower and 250 Newton meters of torque, which is plenty. Don't forget, this is going back 20-something years, and that kind of figure was astonishing back then. Times have changed very rapidly indeed, and it's good not to forget that from time to time. And of course, being a normally aspirated V6, the way it delivers that power and the sounds it makes when it does it are just out of this world. Right, let's take a look around the interior. So climb aboard, and we've got our carbon fibre effect B-post sticky stuff on there, making it look a bit more sporty and exciting. And the smell that wafts out and hits you is oh so Vauxhall, oh so 90s. It's that kind of dry, sweet smell. It's a bit like what Mercedes had into the, well, the noughties and the tens of the current millennium. You smell it and you're transported instantly to a different time and place. Now, moving over to the door before we climb in, we've got thick, heavy-duty tweedy velour, I think I've called the stuff before. It probably does have a real name, but I refuse to use it. It's padded nicely. It's absolutely lovely to put your elbow on. Heavy-duty, slightly rubberised at the front armrest, electric mirrors, heavy-duty metal door handle, a tweeter, a main speaker, more twirl down here, and a courtesy light down in the door itself. So a lovely door. It feels like a very premium piece of door right there. Interestingly, there is no sill kick plate happening down there, but we do have some Vauxhall dealer fit floor mats. Now, before we climb into these bucket seats, let's take a look at them. We have got GSi branded, Recaro also branded bucket seats, heavily wrapping around its occupants. Really cool, interesting sort of camo pattern. It's a bit like the modern urban warfare camouflage patterns you see these days, but in this case it's just on a seat. Let's see how comfy they are. The answer is very. They are mechanical, move back and forth. There is electrical movement for up and down. It's a 3-pedal manual, which is excellent news. And looking ahead of us, we have got a pretty good tea shelf. Excellent space for a cuppa to dwell upon the dashboard, so we can take it to somewhere and enjoy a cup of tea, always a good thing. And let's look at the dash face itself. Very American influenced in this slabbiness, this almost vertical area on the left hand side. Lots of air vents. I'm looking forward to turning those on because it's devastatingly hot. Double vent in the middle, a screen for information like on an Omega actually, just there. And then we have these 3 semicircular dials for the speedometer, 160 miles an hour shown there. I think the top speed is 148. Rev counter on the left, redlining at 6 3/4, and then our fuel and temperature gauges over on the right, and a bank of warning lights below. So far, so Vauxhall. Interesting touch on the side air vent, as well as the movable main one for the driver and passenger. Little side vent blasting off to demist the window. Very forward thinking there. We have our rotating light switch just here. Nice warning chime. Pull for interior light, fog lights front and back below, and then dimming your panel lights and lowering your headlights with a heavy load. Then we've got our very Vauxhall, very square and chunky indicators and wipers. I think I remember these from the Mark III Cavalier. I don't think they've changed actually from that car. Then we have our steering wheel, very heavily sculpted and all over the place. Perforated leather left and right, smooth, hard, plasticky stuff top and bottom, and steering wheel controls for the stereo and other bits and bobs wrapping around like on a Rover. Finally, we have got an airbag, which is the dawn of the airbag period, and of course the horn, all in this very heavily textured rubberized stuff. And the screen is on, and it is telling us that it is 26.5 degrees outside. It's telling us the date, and it's telling us the time. My word, time has flown. Now, below all of that, we have got a large Philips CCR 600 cassette deck and FM radio with a removable key panel, because these radios at this time were the biggest thing in theft in the world. God knows what they were making down the pub, but seriously, you could not hold onto a radio for love nor money in the late 90s. Air conditioning, recirc, rear screen heater, alarm on off, and this one has got the addition of the very expensive option of Traffic Master. It'll warn us of any hold-ups on the motorways, ideal for the rep in a hurry. And we've got tyre pressure monitoring, again an expensive option on a car in this category, although this is the expensive top of the range one. Below that we have got double cup holders. Love the action on that. Let's do that again. Fast then slow, fling then drift. Ashtray, handy place to store your change and your locking wheel nut. 12-volt socket, an interesting colour. This is like a painted silvery plastic colour for the whole centre area. Then behind that we've got our window switches, which look for all the world like heated seat controls. And more importantly though, we've got a manual gearbox with a metal, like a polished aluminium gear knob, the shiny metal ball of choice, with a lift up collar in order to do our shifting to reverse. Proper handbrake, little dimple to put your front knuckles in, leathery armrest behind that, and that's got space for, well, one cup, as long as you sit still and not moving, and deeper stuff so you can lose things in that recess there. All told, not a bad interior, very practical and hard wearing. Climb in the back, much of the door is the same, door handles, tweeters and speakers, courtesy light, but manual wind-up windows. This is like the most expensive car in the range, and it's got manual windows in the back. That's interesting. More of the same centre of the urban camo pattern fabric, but the outer side is just a basic heavy twill. Very softly padded though. I've often criticised Vauxhalls for having seats that are made of stone, but these are really well padded. Nice armrest, again heavily padded with a ski hatch to go through to the boot, very useful. We have got a little rolly roundy ashtray, a throwback to the 1970s there, in the centre. And all told, that's basically our rear seat. It is, it's actually rather comfortable, and I could happily fall asleep in this heat right now, sitting in this chair. No one wake me, I'm going to take 5 minutes. While we're at the back, let's take a look at the bootle area. This is a saloon rather than a hatch, so it's a smaller opening, but it does go back a very, very long way. Lose some stuff in there quite happily. It's all very dark. There is a little light, but it doesn't throw a lot of the bright stuff around. A first aid kit tucked behind this side panel. And if we look underneath the carpet, we'll find a proper spare tyre. Those were the days. Oh, I cannot tell you how grateful I am to be flicking the air conditioning on. It is boiling out there. 27 degrees, it's well out of my comfort zone. Now let's get back to the car. This thing sounds so good. It is pure luxury 90s, the way that burbles like that. Oh. It has got the noise only a V6 can make. That is so good. Puts you in mind of a big Granada. Oh, that does sound nice. Right, let's get onto an open road and then we can talk about it some more. Well, the first impressions are how good the gearbox is. Certainly, it really does help having this nice metal ball on top of there. That's a lovely thing to just drift around through the gears, which are not too heavy, just a nice little bit of resistance, and almost falling into the next gear. Once you get past that point of resistance, it just drops into the next ratio. That's very, very nice indeed. That's something, if you're driving an automatic, you really will miss out on. Flood, I'm very much doubting that. So now, the pedals, they feel very good indeed. These, oh, hello, that's nice. Rolls-Royce, Silver Dawn? No, not Silver Dawn, older than that. Anyway, God, 205.9 for diesel. Sorry, I'll get back to the review in a second. I keep being shocked by stuff. Right, open road. What a noise. 0 to 60 on this thing is 7.5 seconds. Top speed, 148. I don't even want to know what the fuel economy is. This thing does feel brisk, but in a effortless kind of way rather than the frantic way. You put your foot down and that's got a wonderful tide of torque at 250 Newton meters, just carries it along. It's normally aspirated, so there's no waiting for a turbo or jumping from a lower to a higher ratio turbo. It just builds power and goes, and it is effortlessly smooth, which is wonderful. Now the pedals are very nice indeed. The clutch is really quite light and lightly sprung, so it feels good. The brakes, there's nothing behind us. Yeah, they're strong. That wasn't a full-on emergency stop. That was just giving it about 3/4 of the way pressure. So yeah, that's pretty decent. I noticed it got Brembo written on the stuff behind the alloys. You do feel like you're sitting quite low. I have now found there is a pumpy adjuster for pumpily adjusting the hardness of the seat. which is fun. But even though you are sitting quite low down and things, visibility is good. There's an enormous glass area. Because even though you've got these rather fancy, very comfortable Recaro racing seats basically, you are still in what is designed to be a mega mile repmobile from the days when repping cars were the mainstay bread and butter of the car companies. So they had to get the rep segment car absolutely 100% right, or they were pretty much finished. Now I have to be honest, I've not driven a Vectra B in a very long time. The first time I drove one was as a courtesy car after a truck hit the back of my Alfa 146. And I have to say, at the time I was massively underwhelmed. I didn't think it accelerated, braked, cornered or did anything particularly well, especially after my Alfa Romeo. This though is completely different. This though is completely different. It is an utterly different animal with far better acceleration. Obviously it's like nearly double the power of the 1.8 petrol. Everything else feels sharper as well. The suspension feels tauter, the brakes feel better. Everything about it feels like there's loads more going for it in every way possible. Now the thing about these cars though is they are incredibly rare. They didn't make many of them. Under 4,000 were built in total. That's all body styles. If you want an estate version, you have to look very hard indeed. There's less than 400 of them. That's from new. So who knows how many are left? I'm guessing not that many. At full chat, it does sound impressive. It's amazing how refined the thing actually is. It doesn't make a lot of noise, but it does go very well indeed. The big question, of course, is why did Vauxhall do it? That's the main thing, really, isn't it? The question is, of course, who was Vauxhall going up against with this car? Obviously, they were cashing in on their touring car credentials. There weren't really very many rivals to take on a car like this. For £25,000 though, that put you in the same kind of market as a BMW 328. Which was obviously a slightly different class of cars. Certainly back in the 90s, before the days of PCP, BMW's brand image certainly had more cachet than the poor old Griffin or the Blue Oval. So in a way, considering the expense to develop it, the numbers sold, the cost to buy one, you could argue it was a bit of a vanity project on Vauxhall's part, just to sort of say, look at us, we are in the touring cars, we are winning touring car races, and all that kind of thing. Was it ridiculous that they did it? Well, yes, of course it was. Am I glad they did it? 100% yes, definitely. It was a great thing that these kind of cars existed, that someone went out of their way to do something different and daft and just throw all the toys into one big bathtub full of fun. Hit it with the crazy stick and send it off to the dealers. Well done, Vauxhall. I applaud that. The steering is very, very heavy still. I'm not sure if it's a different rack to standard or not, because it doesn't feel like a different number of turns lock to lock. And standard Vectra steering was also quite heavy. So I'm not sure if they've changed that. They have changed the ride height, the ride handling characteristics. It is a lot more sporting. In more of a max power goes crazy with a unlimited budget rather than a Lotus fine-tuned it kind of a way. But still, that's how they did things at Vauxhall. It's like back in the day, AMG were noted for their ability to make things go very fast in a straight line, but not so much the corners, whereas BMW were sublime at corners with their M cars. It's good to look at it through the magnifying glass of time, and that puts it all in perspective. So, thanks for watching. I do hope you've enjoyed this ride out in this utterly doo-doo crazy faux touring car Vauxhall family saloon. If you have, as always, please do hit like and subscribe and join us again next time driving something completely different.